Hello viewers and welcome to the channel. In a previous video I talked about the trim range function, and this is just a little follow on. So if you haven't seen my other video, I invite you to check it out. So with trim range you can trim leading and or trailing blanks from around the outer edges of a specified range. It effectively gives you the used data. Now as you add data, it automatically picks it up without you having to change the formula, making trim range a dynamic function. But what if we had data above or below the used range and we wanted to exclude that? Well, we could specify a from and to range, but then it's no longer dynamic. Instead, we use entire columns, and with trim range, it has little impact on performance. However, we're going to be picking up the data we're hoping to leave out. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we can exclude those. And we'll start off with something simple and then work our way up. In this case, we are trimming columns B and C, and we specified a parameter of 3, so we're trimming leading and trailing blanks. And you can see this by the blue outline. It's only returned the headers down to the last product row. But what if I wanted to exclude the header row? So for example, if I had a drop-down list of products, I don't want to show the product header as well. So I could just do a drop around the trim range and drop 1. Okay, and then we can put this formula inside the data validation list of the drop down. Of course, we would have to change B to C to just column B in this case. So we get the products only. And as we add a product, it automatically gets added to the list. So our data validation list will pick it up. We'll have dynamic drop downs. Now, what if you had some data up the top here and for some reason we couldn't or didn't want to move it? As you see, the trim range is picking it up because it only trims the outer edges. In a similar fashion, we can do a drop. And we're going to drop from the header all the way down to the header row. So from the top down, 7 rows. But as you see, we've lost the first 2 product rows. And that's because we're trimming both leading and trailing. And so we're doing that and then dropping. So what we want to do is just trim trailing. Or we can do the drop first and then the trim range. So now we have the correct results here. However, hard coding 7 here takes away from the dynamic nature of trim range. So as you insert or delete rows above the header, the 7's not going to change and we'll get the wrong results. So how can we fix this? Well, we can do this by using a formula which returns the row of the header. Now you could specify the entire row. In this case, I've just selected the product and price headers. And because these are references, as you insert or delete rows, they will update and return the new row number. And so with our trim range formula, we remove the hard-coded row number and select that formula cell. As we insert a row, the row number changed and we still have the correct data here. All right, so now for something a little more complex. Here. Right, so what we have here are totals per state, and it's summing the data below here. Now we want our sums, our totals to be dynamic so that they include whatever data we have below, but we don't want it to include itself. Now with a typical SUMIF, we do SUMIF, lookup range, lookup value, which is our state in this case, and the sum range, which is our units sold. In this column, it works. That's spelled incorrectly. So in this case here, we're going to get a circular reference because our lookup range and the formula are in the same column. So I'm using Excel Online. It's returning 0. I don't see the error. Perhaps it's a pop-up. But if I copy this formula into here, it should give me the correct value. But as you see, it's not calculating it, probably because of the error. If I delete this formula, you can see it calculates it. So we can't use this SUMIF with entire columns on its own. Instead, we're going to use TRIMRANGE to limit the data range and then embed those within the SUMIF. So here is the formula. Now I'm going to copy out the first trim range, which is our lookup range, and I'm just going to copy it here to try and make it a little easier to read. So we've got a trim range followed by a drop, and the drop is going to drop X number of rows from column I, where X is the value in I1. So this is the header row, in this case row 7, and it uses a similar formula to the example before. So essentially it's doing this: drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're left with all that, and then the trim range is going to trim the trailing blanks because we have a parameter of 2 for trailing. So what we're left with is the range of states. And with the sum range, we do the same thing with just the units sold column. Similar thing, we go column J, we're going to drop the first 7 rows, then we trim all the rest, trailing blanks, and we're left with the range of units sold. Okay, and now I'll just show you the formula again, leave it there for a little while so you can take a look at it. And then we can copy it across for all the states. And we'll just add a few just to show how it is dynamic. New South Wales currently 70, we'll add 30, and it correctly changes to 100. And we'll do the Queensland one. On 30, add 20 to make it 50, correct. And then we'll do one for the WA as well. 10, we'll add 40 to make it 50 as well. And there you have it. Now what if we have data below as well and we want to exclude that from the totals? Right, well, I'll show you that in this example here. Now I'll just hide all this so that we can fit it on the screen here. And hide these as well. Okay, so in this case we have our totals again. We've got the data that we want to sum and the data that we want to exclude from the totals. So what we have is the row of our first header, and we've then done a similar thing to give us the row number of our second header, the ones that we want to exclude. So the way this is going to work is similar function, except in this case we are going to add the take function. All right, and I'm going to add this bit to here. So this is the lookup range. Again, we have the trim range, the drop, and now we have a take. So the take is going to take the first X rows defined by the value in N minus 1, because we don't want to include that header. So we're going to take the first 16 rows from column M. So essentially this. Then we are going to drop 7 rows from the top. Apologies for that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to trim the trailing blanks. So we're left with a range of states. And similar again with our sum range here. we're going to take the first 16 from our units sold, then we're going to drop the first 7. Oh, I've done it again, apologies. 7, and then trim these 2 blanks, and we're left with our units sold. And then we can copy that across for the other states, and I'll just leave it there so we can see the entire formula. Okay, now we're going to add some data here. New South Wales, currently on 70, let's add 30, and you can see it's updated to 100. Let's move this down here, and I will show you, I will just add a product down to here. Let's go product 9, and we're going to go Queensland, which is currently on 30. We're going to add 20, and it should pick this up as well, and it does. We go on to 50. Okay. Because we've told it to go all the way down to the row before the header. Now, if we didn't do the take, we'd be including these in the totals for New South Wales and Queensland. Anyway, there you have it. That's how we can exclude data above and below, essentially taking a subset. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next video.